Your voice recorder can be downloaded in a couple of hours. It's just like your tape recorder. And that can be downloaded without any problem. You have to have a lead investigator who's got the spine to say what is what. But what they are looking for is a lead investigator who will write what they want him to write. Have you ever seen any minister or DGCA taking responsibility? Have they resigned or have they been held accountable? No. So if he had recognized the runway marking and realized he's not developed speed, he could have stopped the aircraft. Now the question is, why did he not stop the aircraft? The first thing that was violated was on the day of the crash itself, when the DGCA revealed the names of the captain and the co-pilot, which is never done. The team that was formed, who have no aviation background, not one of them had qualification to fly the 787. So right from the beginning, it's become a big joke. Any accident worldwide, the investigation team will give a daily briefing of what is the progress. We are almost 2 weeks into the crash. Has there been a single official brief to the public?
How long will it take for the findings from the black box of the ill-fated Air India flight to become public? How is data from black boxes usually analysed? To answer these questions and more, we are joined today by Captain Mohan Ranganathan, who is an aviation safety expert and a former instructor pilot at SpiceJet. Thank you so much for joining us, Captain. Captain, you've long flagged serious lapses in how Indian aviation investigations are conducted. What's your initial assessment of how the Air India probe has been handled so far?
Nothing has changed from the kind of pathetic investigation we've been having over the years. And you see, like Annex 13 of ICAO has clearly laid down certain norms. And the first thing that was violated was on the day of the crash itself, when the DGCA revealed the names of the captain and the co-pilot, which is never done. If you see worldwide any report, you will not see, even in the final report, they'll only say captain so many hours, co-pilot and a first officer so many hours. You will never see the names mentioned. So human elements are never counted in India. They started off, and the thing that you have to do immediately is to sanitize the area where the crash took place. Nobody should be allowed anywhere near even a small bit of debris until they've photographed them, their location is marked with GPS. Only then can they even allow others to even step in. But from the first minute, you had television crew, you had media, you had people taking selfies. I mean, they made a joke of that. And then you had that wing which is fallen there. You had the Javans and then two officials standing on top of the wing. It was pathetic. Now the whole world has seen that. Then you announce that you're not going to let the International Civil Aviation Organization team be there, which is wrong, which means you have something to hide. Because if you say that you're transparent, you have to accept that all the accredited party have to be there. See, like it is an American manufactured aircraft. So Boeing and NTSB will come into the picture, even though the primary investigation team has to be India. But you had British citizens who are dead, and you have the engines manufactured in UK. So they will have the UK AAIB in there as observed. See, they will be part of the investigation. They are not going to pass any comments. If the final report has any adverse comments which they don't agree with, then it is within their right to give their own opinion. Otherwise, you will find it shows that the team that was formed, all the officials and others who have no aviation background, not one of them have qualification to fly the 787. There is not one engineer who is a 787 engineer. So when you have a team, people who don't know the system, so what are you going to look for and what are you going to find? You see, everyone's looking at several YouTube channels where guys are giving their opinion. But how many of them have even flown an aircraft? Do we have any? The only credible evidence apart from the DFTR, what is available to us in public, is the CCTV footage which was released. Now, if you enhance that image to certain quality, because when you enhance it too much, the whole thing pixelates. But what you can see from the time the aircraft appears in the frame till the time you see the second engine also going, you can identify, and if you freeze the frames second by second, it gives you a very clear picture of what you can observe. The 787 has got two sets of recorders, one in the nose section and one in the tail section. And the whole world has seen the photographs of the tail, which was intact. There was no explosion or anything till the point of impact. The power has failed because the engines have failed. Yes, the Laminar turbine has come down later, but you can't make out the rat during the climb phase of that aircraft. But what is very, very clear in that CCTV footage is that if you look at it carefully, there's a taxi track Bravo, which is a second from the end, and that's 600 feet from the end of the runway. And you can see an aircraft on that taxi track coming in. I think it's an Indigo aircraft. So you got him passing a taxi track and an aircraft 600 feet from the end of the runway. And 1 second later or 2 seconds later, you can see he's crossed the end of the runway. And the liftoff takes place 4 seconds later. So to say that it took off at the normal place is again misleading the public. And to say that even after 6 days, we haven't got the data. Your voice recorder can be downloaded in a couple of hours. It's just like your tape recorder. It records every bit of sound in the cockpit. The pilot's headphones, the pilot's speakers, and any warning, audible warning which comes in the cockpit is all recorded in this CVR. And that can be downloaded without any problem. And you see any accident worldwide, you will find the investigation team will give a daily briefing of what is the progress. We are almost 2 weeks into the crash. Has there been a single official brief to the public? No. Only rumors and speculations are going on. One thing I can tell you, the dust that you see as the aircraft are lifting off, the sides of the runway have more than 8 inches of grass growth. You're not supposed to have more than 3 inches. The airport owners have not mowed the grass for the standards. When you have high grass, especially during monsoon season, you have worms and insects. And for them, the birds come. They'll say that there was no evidence of birds on the runway. The aircraft took off beyond the end of the runway in the overrun area. That is where, when he's lifting off, you could see a cloud of dust. The overrun area is not covered with grass. There's a Google Earth image, which is end of March this year, just 2 or 3 months back. It shows brown. If it was full of grass, it would have been green. Or you can at least see the growth of grass. So the dust that you see is because it's evident that he's taken off beyond the end of the runway. Now the question is, why did he wait till then? He had, if they say that the engine was not developing power, He should have realized that once he crossed half the runway, that he was not accelerating. Why did he not notice that? The last 3,000 feet of runway have runway markings. At 3,000 and 2,500, you will have one stripe. At 2,000 and 1,500, you'll have two stripes. And 1,000 and 500, you'll have three stripes. Any pilot who studied the runway markings in Annex 14 will know how much of runway is left. So if he had recognized the runway marking and realized he's not developed speed, he could have stopped the aircraft. Now the question is, why did he not stop the aircraft? And you have two pilots there. Did at least one of them recognize and alert the other pilot? Now all this would be there if they had even released the voice recorder. At least part of the anxiety that the traveling public and others have would have been cleared. You can get the DFDR readout later and analyze. But the fact that they're not even revealing the cockpit voice recorder is something which indicates that they want to hide.
Captain, I wanted to actually ask you, these two black boxes, why are they so critical? What is the timeline that is usually followed for releasing the data that is analyzed? And what is the timeline that we can realistically expect in this case?
Voice recorder is usually released very, very fast.
Okay.
It is the DFDR, the digital flight data recorder. It has to be, it is all in codes. What is recorded? It has several thousand parameters which are recorded. They're all in codes. So it is a software which has to analyze and identify what each code is to give a number which is readable. And after that, they also put it in graphic form. So every second, the position in the runway, position in the air is all, graphically visible for you to analyze. With a good lab, good investigators, they will have the DFDR readouts analyzed in 2 weeks. So that is why they say that the preliminary report should be available for you in 30 days. But if you go by the track record of any accident in India, it takes for years. Or they will appoint a committee with people who know nothing about the aircraft, nothing about civil aviation. I can tell you the kind of pathetic report they came out of Mangalore or Calicut or the Gulf runway excursion in Cochin. It really shows the knowledge level is pitiable. Why are there delays? Now, the voice recorder may be downloaded. The person who downloads will know, but he will not be permitted to release it. He'll be sent to the DGCA, who will in turn take it to the ministry. There's some joint secretary or a deputy secretary will decide what can be released and what cannot be. Anything which is embarrassing, they will not do it. I've seen that for the last 25 years.
Captain, reports have also indicated that the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau is yet to appoint a lead investigator. Are you aware if this is indeed the case, and how does this affect the pace and quality of the investigation?
You have to have a lead investigator who's got the spine to say what is what. But what they are looking for is a lead investigator who will write what they want him to write. That has been the case in every accident report in India. So that is why, even though they may claim we are the fastest growing aviation industry, but when your safety standards are so poor, your training standards are poor, they don't want any flaws to be picked up. So the final, if you take the earlier crashes, you had the Ahmedabad crash in 1988. Immediately, a High Court judge was appointed. The team was appointed by DGCA and they reported to the judge. But have you seen anything like that in the last 20 years? So it is all controlled by the Ministry of Civil Aviation.
Captain, besides retrieving and analyzing the black box data, can you tell us what else are a part of the investigation? What are the different steps? And how long does it usually take for an investigation like this to be completed?
You see, the very fact that nothing has come out, don't think that the DFDR readouts are not available to the. After all, Boeing and NTSB are also part of the, even though they're not an investigation team, they are assisting the investigation. Now, if they find with the kind of backlash that Boeing has been facing ever since the MAX crisis, and even the FAA has been coming down hard on them, you will find that either Boeing and FAA would have come out with an emergency airworthiness directive if there was something wrong with the aircraft. Everybody's talking of power failure, this failure, that failure. If it is going to affect, there are thousands of 787s flying all over the world. You think the manufacturer and FAA can afford another backlash after what they went through with the MAX? So the fact that there's been no directive either from Boeing or from FAA is an indication that they know what has happened.
How accountable do you think Boeing is, or is this something that shouldn't be commented on until the black box data is released to the public?
You should not even be commenting about the airworthiness of the aircraft until the DFTR findings come. I can tell you that if they try to cook up the DFDR readouts and try to put any blame on Boeing, both Boeing and NTSB will definitely publish a counter, like they did for the Silk Air crash in Singapore. So they will keep quiet as long as it doesn't affect them. And definitely their silence for so long indicates that it is not an aircraft problem. It is more the system problem. Either human error, because the pilot has gone beyond the end of the runway for the liftoff. And the other thing, why did he take that long? Why did it take so long for the aircraft to accelerate? There are only two reasons. One is the wrong weight and temperature has been input into the computer. So he had the wrong setting and the wrong flap setting. That will come out in the DFDR. And the other is overweight. Excess baggage. Suppose you allowed 25 kilos. On the load sheet, they might have entered your baggage weight is 25 kilos. But if you have put in 30 kilos because someone has called up the assistant there, just past the excess weight, they will type it 25 kilos. But you may have added another 5-10 kilos to your bag, which is not recorded. Yeah. So for every additional 10 kilos per passenger, this aircraft with 240 passengers is carrying 2.5 tons extra. And for 2.5 tons extra, the amount of runway that it will use, the amount of thrust that's required, they are mismatched. So now this will come out but if you look at the video, you can see that the acceleration appears normal up to the point it crosses in front of the center. And then even during the takeoff, but you can see very clearly on the video that from the time he crosses the Bravo taxi track and the end of the runway, all the three wheels are on ground, which means he's not even commenced the rotation. And rotation takes 5 seconds for an aircraft. Otherwise, you'll have a tail strike. And so in 5 seconds, at that speed, many of the radar plots show 175 knots. It'll be covering about 290 feet per second. So at 5 seconds, you're looking at 1,500 feet on the overrun area. So why did he not recognize that? That is the question which is worrying me. Why both the pilots had not recognized that? If they recognized early, why didn't they stop the aircraft? It is all nice to say that, you see, whatever People are talking of the power failure and the rat coming out. Or it is all secondary. The primary thing is up to the point he lifted off.
Hmm.
If he is not lifted off in the paved surface, that is something which is very serious.
Definitely. And Captain, are there known safety checks or protocols that airlines sometimes overlook due to commercial pressure? I mean, is this a systematic problem in the Indian aviation industry?
See, what is the primary thing or principle of Annex 13 is you identify the cause, do not apportion blame, and have recommendations and procedures in place to prevent a recurrence. When you find all that you will find in every accident report in India, it's pilot error. You identified the cause as a pilot error. Have you done anything to correct the system? If you have the same type of accidents, like you had the Mangalore air crash,
Hmm.
high and fast, late touchdown, he overran the runway. Because of the terrain, they died. And you also had rescue did not reach. Even the DGCA audit on Calicut had identified that the perimeter road is too narrow and rescue cannot reach that point. It is there. The crash center of the airport had actually turned turtle. Still, they did nothing.
And Captain, going off by what you said, I also want to ask you if in this particular case there is a chance that all accountability will be shifted to the pilot, so that DGCA, Boeing, and Air India will not really have to suffer consequences if they are to be blamed.
See, Boeing being blamed does not arise if no system fault has been identified. It is now either the question of a wrong input by the pilot or the wrong weight given to the pilot, which again points to the system, the airline staff. Now, who's going to take the blame? Who's going to be found guilty is a question.
Captain, what role does the DGCA play in routine safety audits and checks? And do you believe their current oversight is adequate?
Not at all. After every crash, they'll announce fresh set of audits, fresh set of checks, but the same thing will continue. Because remember that to stop an operation, first thing they'll say is we have to maintain connectivity. And you'd rather maintain connectivity in unsafe environment. That's your problem. Because they know there is no accountability. Have you ever seen any minister or DGCA taking responsibility? Have they resigned or have they been held accountable? No. And even if you go to the airline, if it's an airline fault, you've had so many accidents involving Air India Express right from 2007. Has any changes taken place in the head of training or head of operations or head of safety? The same team continues.
Since the crash almost 3 weeks ago, we have seen multiple reports, more than usual, of flights being cancelled, of flights making emergency landings. Is this fear psychosis? Is this a trend that usually happens after crashes?
No, not at all. It is created by the media. I'm sorry to say that. For the media, everything is a breaking news. It's only the aircraft break and the confidence breaks for the public.
And Captain, how do you see the crash affecting Air India's image as a brand and the morale of not just the passengers but also the crew? How do you see this playing out in the coming months?
You see, the very fact that you hear so much of that, the crew are worried, the crew are affected, it puts a very big question mark on Air India's training. When you feel that your training is top class, then you should have the confidence that my crew will operate whatever the conditions. Safety is priority. So now it puts a question mark on the training, it puts a question mark on the safety, and also the biggest thing for me is there have been lots and lots of reports, not just in Air India, but also in Indigo about fatigue. And crew are overworked. You see, even the duty time and rest period rules, which the DGCA keeps, it is all focused on airline priority, not the crew priority. So the day we move away from the airline priority on fatigue, then you will find the system will become safer. As long as you think connectivity is important, the flights have to go. I've ordered 100 aircraft, so even though I don't have the crew, uh, I will operate to the limit. That puts a lot of stress. And in aircraft emergencies, it just takes 5 minutes, 5 seconds difference between a safe flight and a crash.
Definitely, Captain. Since the crash, one of the major challenges has also been the flood of misinformation online, much of it coming from self proclaimed aviation experts. What kind of harm does this do to public trust and the investigation process?
The investigation process, really speaking, should ignore those. And the media should also ignore those. Because if every day a guy is coming up with a new theory, he doesn't have the information. He doesn't have the DFTR. All he has is the video. You start analyzing what has happened. How can you, sitting a couple of kilometers away with a low resolution camera, assess what was happening there? They become, and when you put fear into the traveling public and also the crew, I would blame the airline. I think they need a better PR agency to give confidence to the passengers. You don't see anyone giving a positive feed to reassure the passengers. Have you seen Air India giving any statement other than the first one? No. So that is where the whole thing is. And that's because you say something and it doesn't agree with what the ministry or the DGC is thinking, you know that they're going to come down hard on you. So they keep quiet because of that. And as long as we don't have an independent regulator, totally free from control by the ministry, you will never find a safe environment here.
Captain, can you just help us understand what the next steps in the investigation are likely to be based on past investigations?
I will not go by past investigation because all the investigations that I've come across in the last 20 years have just been rubbish. So you would never find a truth. Like if they say, how do you prevent a recurrence? You had the Sahara overrun in Bombay, high and fast approach. You had the Kingfisher overrun in Bombay, high and fast approach. You had the Air India overrun, you had the Air India Express overrun, and again Air India, all fatal accidents is the same. Have they ever found a system where you found the answer to prevent one? That is the problem.
And Captain, I know we shouldn't be speculating, but just wanted to understand based on what is emerges from the black box data, if the fault does lie in, say, mechanical error, how will this affect the aviation industry, Boeing, Dreamliner? Just want to understand the different scenarios that could play out in the coming months.
If there was a mechanical error, if there was something which is come in the DFTR, you got to understand, unlike our investigators who are like a learner in a car with an L board, these are investigators with an L board. And the people in NTSB and Boeing have worked on thousands of accidents, and they will know how to identify every input in the DFTR, even with the full details being given to them. Just a cursory glance will give them an indication.
Can we expect the investigation to be transparent? And overall, is India's aviation accident reports transparent enough and thorough enough?
The answer is no. Not a single accident report is transparent. Not an single accident report is thorough. So there are a lot of wrong information and wrong feed. You can pick holes in every page in an accident report. So if you think that things are going to change now, you have to be dreaming.
What is required, Captain, for things to change?
For things to change, you need accountability and transparency. Like they said during the war period, that you put all the window shades down when you operate to defense airfields. Now, that is the primary safety requirement, that if there is a crash landing, the crew inside should recognize where the fire is to evacuate the passengers and clear area. And for rescuers outside to identify which part of the aircraft is running inside. Now, if you close that, you are endangering the life of every passenger if there was a crash. But for a billionaire's wedding, they throw open the Jamnagar airport with hundreds of foreigners and cameras and video. That is okay. So it just shows that their safety mindset is zero as far as safety is concerned.
Definitely, Captain. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
What I'd like to add is, for a change, try to be open, put every card on the table in public in the next 1 week. They'll have the information already. Put it out, so let the world see what went wrong, because this aircraft is not only flying in India, it's flying worldwide. You'll be doing a service to every passenger worldwide flying this aircraft. So if you think it is an aircraft thing, put the proof on the table. Let the manufacturer also accept the responsibility. But if you think it is nothing wrong with the aircraft, it is their duty to ensure that the public get to know the facts.
Thank you so much for your valuable insights, Captain.